Alright, so people keep saying, Kishi, you should record videos. And I keep saying, I like working with the radio on, but that doesn't stop them from asking me to keep making videos. So, here's a quick one. This is a Lincoln Town Car. This is a Ford 8.8 rear end, and the bearing is, I don't know if it's the bearing that's bad or the axle shaft. The axle shaft is bad. This is where the rollers ride, and as you can see, it's getting all pitted. The oil had a metallic sheen to it, and the seal has started leaking rather badly. Thinking back on it, I think I actually put new seals in this. I'm pretty sure I did not put bearings in it, but I do believe I put seals in it. And I got oil on my hand. See, this is why I don't do videos. My brain is too disorganized for this. But, I'd put wheel cylinders in this too, and it looks like that one might have a leak, but one thing at a time. To get the seal out, you use a tool like this. These are functionally the same, but the handle's nicer on this one. Basically, you just hook it behind the seal and you give it a whack repeatedly, and you kind of go at it from a couple of angles until it pops out and then seals out. Now you've got the bearing. So to pull that guy out, you use a tool like this. This is part of a gear wrench brand set. Like so, 41710, and the part number for the specific tool for the size that we're working with is 41711. You use this in combination with a slide hammer. It's already over there. You can loan a tool, whatever you want to call it, these tools from part stores in various areas of North America. Not quite everywhere, but many places. The basic premise of how this works is the hammer mounts here and pulls the tool that way. This is the piece that actually applies the removing force to the bearing, and to get it in the bearing, you flip it like that. So you have to thread this back a distance so that there's enough room to slip this through and then get it to do that behind. And then we're going to tighten this down so that when we apply blowing force with the slide hammer, the tool doesn't jiggle around and lose its pulling force or unseat itself off the back of the bearing. You don't normally need to apply heat or anything for this, although it probably would make it come out easier. I've done these a few times and never used heat, and it hasn't been too dramatic. So sometimes you need to pull this back a fair ways because there's some wiggling to do. And you'll notice that opening is offset, so it goes further one way than it does the other. There we go. So that's now in there. We're just going to snug this guy down. This is definitely easier with two hands, and I do have a little tripod for the phone, but I haven't seen it in about 2 years now, so might as well just consider that gone. You could use the tool without tightening this down. However, because you have to usually make a large number of smacks with the hammer, it is better if the tool does not come dislodged. So that's got some tension on it. We're then going to take our slide hammer. This is just a little guy. I think it's 2-3 pounds. It's for a dent puller kit, but a chunk of metal is a chunk of metal, so this also does not need to be tight. However, the more threads you have engaged between the two tools, the less chance you will damage the threads, and also the snugger it is, again, the less vibration you get. You notice that has the tension of the tool and the bearing preventing it from tipping, the slide hammer is staying upright. So to operate this, we just take this guy and we slide it with some force against the nut. This is going to take some doing. Wonder if I can prop you up on my tool bag. Here's a Milwaukee Impact as a phone stick. Yeah, okay. That might work. Probably muffling the sound. And there you go. I have no idea what you can see right now, but basically, let's pick you up again. So, oh man, I hate phones. Not sure exactly where that cut off, but basically the number of hits I did there is typical. Some would say it's an easier bearing to get out than others. This is what the bore looks like. Notice it's kind of two-stepped. The inner, more narrow, so the outermost is where the seal sits. The inner, slightly more narrow, is where the bearing sits. And inside of that is just hollow axle tube. Not really sure why we see light on the other side. There's still a wheel over there, but that's probably just inside the diff, because I've got a work light over there and the diff cover's open. You do have to drain the diff to do this, because the oil level is normally probably right about here, hence why the seal will leak when the bearing starts to get wiggly. So we do that. I can get you off of there. Like I said, I'm pretty sure this is factory original. The car doesn't have enough mileage to have gone through a bunch of bearings yet. See anything useful. I'm trying to look at it with my eyes, but the phone is probably easier. Torrington. This is probably original to the car. No markings as to country of origin, but it's yeah, probably original. I don't know if we're gonna get a good... Yeah, you can see the roller surface is kind of pitted, so... Regardless, typically what happens is when the seal starts leaking, it's because either debris from the bearing shredding has started to get into it, or play has developed because of the bearing or the axle shaft getting eaten. And the correct fix is generally axle shaft, bearing, and seal all together. If you just do any one of those three, you're going to be at it again, and you can't replace the seal and put it back in. It's not possible. You destroy it. But yeah, so I'm going to probably use what's called a repair bearing in place of this, since I don't have an axle shaft. I mean, I do have an axle shaft. There's two right there, but I don't really want to take that apart right now. So that's what came out, the standard design bearing. We have a replacement for it if I determined the axle shaft had no wear, but it does. So what we use in this case, when we don't feel like spending the money on an axle shaft, is the repair bearing. So the repair bearing does is, remember how there was that stepped height? There were two diameters. This gets pushed to the inside and has a seal on the inside that keeps the axle oil from going into the bearing. I don't really know why they do that, but they do. And what they do is they push the bearing, so that the way this is designed, the bearing normally sits here on this diameter, but with this design of part, they move the bearing so it's more here. So what that looks like is something approximately like this. So where it's all worn, there's no longer bearing riding on it, we move the bearing onto what is theoretically fresh and durable metal. It still has its hardened coating on it. The seal, the outer seal, gets ever so slightly pushed into an area that has been exposed to years of the elements. So we're going to clean that up and hope that the seal doesn't get too chewed up by it. Even if it does, this should buy me a few years of time to figure out what I'm doing with the rear end in this car. I don't really have any plans to do anything with it, but part's like $25, so well worth it. Now for comparison, those are like $10, so it's definitely a fair price premium over it. And of course, when you use one of these, the seals actually are integrated instead of using a separate seal as you would with that style of bearing. So I'm going to try to get all the metal shavings out of the axle tube, because I did find some. And then I'm going to drive this guy in there and probably change the other side just for good measure, because we know that the wear has started, although anecdotally the passenger side is the only side that goes on these. Something to do with the way the 8.8 favors sending torque to that side. So I don't know. That's what they say anyway. So, yep, fun stuff.